more sense. Right? Things are a little bit hard solar is sometimes hard to make sense when you see clouds and rain and snow and all of that. But I will say, and I heard this on a call earlier, Erjan mentioned it, and it's a slightly different approach, but one of my biggest months took place in the month of November. And I say all of the seasonality just because it's a reality. But at the same time, for those people who are focused, you can kind of get ahead in this season. So, from the perspective of clients, right, when you speak to clients during these 4 months of the year, you're going to hear literally every single excuse in the world, right? You're going to hear family, and, I'm traveling, Thanksgiving, let's push that off until after Christmas, after New Year. You're going to hear all of that stuff, even though we do 90% of all of our consultations virtually. You're going to hear people say that it's raining, it's doomy and gloomy outside. I don't want anyone on my house. And when you tell them that, you're doing it virtually, they're going to say they don't want anyone on their computer. They're going to come up with every single excuse in the world. And, like to say is that this is where, if you take this seriously as a professional, you can learn to hone down on your skills. Right. And this is something that I kind of, now I don't want to say I taught myself, but something I started practicing a few years back. And it was going harder in the winter months. So when the spring months started to come around, I was prepared. I was ready. Right. I've heard all of the excuses. I heard all of the delays. I heard all of the objections that, I knew I was going to hear anyway. So when that time came, I was ready for it. Right. And once again, I just wanted to start off the call that way because it was something that was on my mind. And once again, I know people see it. In addition to that, now here's another benefit, right? This is the seasonality of solar, right? But the benefit, huge benefit that we have here in Build is that we don't just offer solar, right? We offer water, right? What's the seasonality of water? All year round, right? What's the seasonality of a home security, right? All year round. So what's the seasonality of being smart and educated about your finances, right? All year round. So we have so much more to offer. And that's what, the benefit and the pleasure of, being a part of Build is all about. So just wanted to share that and put that out there. So as we continue to build long term, right, you kind of see and understand what ebbs and flows are taking place, and you don't get confused, right? I forget who said this recently, but and this actually is on a Millionaire Mentorship, I believe so, on a Millionaire Mentorship call. But basically, someone said that you build this business in spurts, right? So it's a huge spurt. It's a lot of attention, a lot of activity, and you're just going at it hard, 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 hard. But as we all know, people can't go hard forever. So you have to take a break, recharge, get your mind right, because there's a lot of stuff that happens where you got to get refocused, and then you charge back in it. So just understanding that is very important as we continue to build moving forward. But to jump into the three outcomes of a consultation. Now, for some of the people on the line who've actually heard me, and we've had consultations before and we've went through the process directly, you may have already heard me say this, that, we have or I have consultations, I should say, not just to close deals, right? Because if you go into a consultation with just the mindset of closing a deal, then it'll be a very transactional situation. And I'm sure some of you have already experienced that, a transactional situation where it's just this person was just here for the deal or the money or whatever it is. And obviously, the client may not really feel good in that situation. So it's not just for the deal per se, right? But I want to break it down like this. And as you, well, I'm not going to say that, but yeah, I'll break it down like this. So the three outcomes, right? Obviously, the first one is results, right? I was gonna say I don't have slides. You guys know I don't have slides. I never do. They'll come soon. Trust me. I just came out of a consultation just now. So days packed, right? And I'm just, I'm giving you guys my heart. I also don't want to have it overly prepared where it's scripted, right? I just want to be real transparent and, give you guys the real stuff. So once again, the first outcome is the results. Obviously, we're looking for results. We don't do this. We don't have consultations. We don't book appointments to not have results. So that's the first outcome that we're all looking for a fact. The second outcome we're looking for are referrals, right? So I'll jump to this ahead of time, right? I'll give you all three up front, right? And then I'll come back and touch on it. And then the last R, right, is for recruits, right? Obviously, we're in this business and we can do multiple things, but these are the three things we're looking for. So when I have a consultation, I sit down with a person and in my mind already, my outcome, I'm looking for one of these outcomes, right? Either results with closing a deal, getting some type of referrals, right? And or potentially turning this person into a recruit. And through some of the other trainings that you guys have heard me do, you kind of heard some of this already, so it'll be a little bit repetitive. But what I realize is that it's extremely good for things to be repetitive, so we can actually learn them and then start to implement them into our business, right? So once again, results, right? So as I'm saying this from a consultant side or as a closer side per se, I want you to think about this when you're booking the appointment as well, because sometimes people book appointments, consultations, whether it's for solar, whether it's for water, whether it's for home security, or it's even inviting someone out to a business meeting, right? You go into the deal one track minded, right? So, for instance, and I'll use this as an example, but let's say you invite someone out to a business meeting and you want them to get started. I just want you to get started, be a builder, please. That's all I want. And that's all you want to talk about. Obviously, it's understandable. But as this person sees the information, let's say they don't get started, they may have people who could benefit from the water, right? They may have other people, they may actually be able to refer you to other business partners, right? But if we don't have the mindset of just staying open to what the person could bring to the table, then we'll shut off all of the other opportunities that could possibly be available, right? And hopefully this makes sense, right? So I would say every consultation, just want to be open-minded to the possibilities of what could happen. So when we go on a consultation, as some of you have already aware of, the whoever's closing the deal should go in with educating the homeowner. If it's a skillful consultant, then they should go in. The first goal should be to educate the homeowner. Once again, I want you guys to understand this. I say educate, and I mean it. As a closer, I'm looking for results. All right. I don't get paid to be, well, I don't want to say that, but I'm not a teacher, right? I don't get paid to teach, right? We get paid off of results. So trust me when I say I'm looking for results. However, the best way to get results specifically in this business is to consult with people and not sell, right? When you consult with people, you literally explain how solar works and you explain how solar works in a way where the homeowner decides to make the decision instead of you making the decision for them, right? Now, as I hear chirps of different things from different people all over, there's people who, make the decision for the homeowner and you'll close the deal today. Trust me, you'll close the deal today, right? And then the deal won't be there tomorrow, right? And if the deal is there tomorrow, then that will be the last deal you ever receive from that person, right? And now your business have just become transactional, right? So, obviously you guys, I've been in solar for a while, and then literally about 6, 7 years ago, the feeling of this is going to be my long-term career. So if I'm going to do this, I need to do it in a sustainable method, right? I can't do it in a way where I'm here today and gone tomorrow. Some of the people who taught me solar, all right, and I'm focusing on solar, obviously, because that's my field, but this goes for anything and everything, right? All of the products and services that we have. But some of the people who taught me the solar industry taught me in a way that was not sustainable. And the funny thing is that those people who taught me aren't in the solar industry anymore, right? Still good friends, right? But they're not around anymore. And I know why, right? So my point is you want to do everything in a sustainable method and you want to have the mindset of, okay, education, let's help the client first and foremost, right? If you help the first client, once again, they will open up the doors of their contact list for you, from their family, their friends, their brothers, their sisters, everybody that they know, because they know and understand your intentions, right? So if you're on the phone and you're booking an appointment and they can feel and sense and hear that commission breath on your voice, sometimes they may move forward, but they won't refer anyone to you. And guess what? There's not a sign on their head that tells you whether you did the right thing or not. You know, and they know, but it's an unspoken language, right? So that's the first thing, right? So we get results by educating and consulting with homeowners. That's first and foremost. Now, once we educate and we do the best of our ability to do that, right? We already know that every homeowner is not going to go solar. We know that already, right? How many people know that already? Right? How many people are familiar with that, right? If you've had enough consultations, you'll know that everyone's not going to move forward. And the reality is that solar is not necessarily made for everyone to move forward, right? Everyone's not going to qualify. That they personally are not going to qualify, right? You'd be surprised how many people, whether fail credit or all types of situations, but personally they may not qualify. Their house may not qualify. Their roof may not qualify. Their electrical may not qualify. So there's so many reasons why a deal may not move forward. However, that doesn't matter because if you educate, right, and you consult, then if they don't move forward, they'll still be open to referring business to you. Now, this is something that I do. I know other salespeople don't do this because they're only looking for transactional relationships. But there's some appointments that I'll go on, right, that I know aren't going to close, right? I can see it from the beforehand, right? I can see it's the house. It has a bunch of trees. It's shaded all over. And I know this house is not qualified for solar, right? But once again, I'm not going into the consultation to just close the deal. Now, there could be some possibilities. We can cut trees down. We can figure it out, right? And as a consultant, that's my job to figure out. But if someone's not open to it, I'll give you an example. I had an appointment today, this morning actually, and in the notes said, I don't know if this is from someone on the call or not. I don't want to be calling anyone out, but in the notes, it basically said not looking to cut down trees, it was not looking to something else, right? So it was kind of like, okay, well, this is probably not a deal that's going to move forward, and that's okay. Also, I'm maybe going a little bit off topic, but as a mentor, right, it's my job to mentor you about solar sales or through this solar process, right? So I'll also do a consultation just to show the process so you know and you understand how a solar consultation should go, right? So I know everyone doesn't do that, and that's okay. But that's the role of a mentor's job, right? I take that with pride, and I don't take for granted, I should say, the position that I'm in, right? So we want to teach, we want to educate people so they actually know, what they're doing and they can grow in this business as well. But my point is, if you know that that homeowner is not going to move forward for whatever reason, you want to still be in a position where you consult with them so they can still actually refer business to you. Now, the whole purpose of a consultation for me is to present solar in a way where the homeowner understands it, not move forward. Everyone's not going to move forward, as I just mentioned. But if they understand it, well, now they can say, okay, this makes sense, right? Let as we know, solar consultation, it could be a lot, right? It's a lot of information, right? So someone now can say, okay, let me think about this. Let me review this. Let me follow up. Let's follow up tomorrow. And as we also know through the Grant Cardone training, most deals don't get closed on the first sit anyway. So it's an aspect of understanding your expectations. What's the word I'm looking for? Managing your expectations, right? Because if you're going into a consultation every time thinking, oh, this has to close, I can't wait for this to close, stressing you, you'll be very upset. Very upset, right? And you can't have those expectations. You need to really manage them. But as you present, as you consult, as educate the homeowner, once they leave the room understanding how solar works, think about this, right? How much more educated are they and advocates of you to now refer you to more people, right? Before people have consultations, just imagine this, right? And I'm sure we've all experienced it. Before people have had a consultation with a consultant, I'm sure you've heard of them trying to explain how solar works to somebody else or trying to verbalize it and just literally messing the whole thing up, right? They're talking about all types of wrong information and it's extremely it's not beneficial. Let's put it that way, right? And it adds more confusion to the situation than anything else. But after a homeowner has a very detailed consultation where they understand, just like the water presentation, right? When I see that water presentation, there's no way I could say I don't know. Yes, I want to recommend this to everybody else. Why? I've seen it with my own eyes. It makes sense. I get it. I cannot now leave the situation thinking that or pretending like I don't know because I do know, right? It's the same thing with a solar consultation, right? Once you explain things the right way, the homeowner knows, and now they become advocates for you. Now, if they ever speak to anyone, family, friend, neighbor, they can speak about it, I should say, with some type of level of knowledge instead of he say, she say, conversations. Right? So that's the second aspect, or that's the second outcome, referrals, right? Now, referrals go a long way, right? Because, a lot of people do a lot of things to generate business, right? So whether it's door knocking, whether it's online ads and online leads, whether it's, just all types of different varieties of ways that people generate leads. The easiest and the simplest way that I've realized is through a consultation, through a homeowner who knows what solar actually is and how it works, right? So just keep that in mind, right? That can be another way of you generating leads. I know personally, I'll be very transparent. I live in New York. I live in the city, right? There's not too many doors, houses around my corner, right? There's a bunch of apartment buildings and things of that nature. So there's not a lot of space for me to go knock doors and things of that nature. I'm not saying that I can't. I'm above it because I'm not. It's just may not always be the most feasible thing for me to do on a regular basis. So I use the consultations that I do go on to generate leads, right? And I'm trying to generate business from the business I already have. Now, I explained this to someone earlier, and they said, well, we don't have the business that you have. Okay, that might be true, but use what you do have. So if you have a list of 10 people that you've presented to, right? You've had a consultation with, those 10 people, any and everybody on the line today can call back and say, hey, John, I know we had a consultation a month ago, 2 months ago. I know solar wasn't good for you for whatever reason, but do you know anyone else that you could refer over to us? Right? And you'll be surprised how many people actually give you referrals. One referral here, two referrals here. If you do that with a list of 10 people, right? And each person gives you 1 to 2 referrals, this is easily another 5, 10, maybe 15 referrals that you can now do the same thing with and continue to grow your business through that referral base, right? So it's just, having the focus to do that and focusing on it, right? I don't want to go too far off track, but I call a lot of my clients over and over and over again, right? Not every day, but as I'm calling through new referrals, I'm calling some of the old clients, and it's a checkup call, right? Hey, how's everything? I know we installed your system a year ago, 3 months ago, 2 years ago, whatever, it doesn't matter. How's the system treating you? How much money are you saving? A lot of money? Perfect. Fantastic. Do you know anyone else that could benefit? Simple question, right? And then once again, they give more referrals. Once again, whether it's two, whether it's three, this is another two or three people I don't have to try to search for out in the world. Right? So that's once again outcome number two, referrals. I think I kind of touched very deep on that, right? So we'll move on from the second outcome. And the third outcome is recruits, right? So as we're in this business, obviously, a lot of people are looking to build a business, right? Build that residual income base and continue to, grow that business that we're all looking for, right? Now, someone may say, well, how do I turn a client, right, or a consultation into a potential business partner, right? Well, I have two people who are on. They're gonna join. What presentation is? I have a present. They're gonna join one of the presentations this week. Literally due to the fact that we called, we had a consultation, right? Great thing. They didn't qualify for solar. They failed credit. Something happens. There's always something, right? But something happened where they didn't move forward, and that's no problem. But they gave referrals, right? So I explained this situation about a week or two ago, right? Had a young lady who I sat with, she failed credit. She gave 11 referrals. We gave her some money up front just to keep her happy. Yep, she gave 11. Out of the 11, I'm in communication with three of them that I'll be sitting with this week, right? So three out of the 11 I'll be sitting with this week. Now that I know there's a potential of these three people closing, I can now call the person back as I did and say, hey, three people on your list might be moving forward. Are you open to hearing how you might be able to split 50% of the commission? And let's collaborate on this situation, right? That's an easy conversation, right? Instead of me paying you 500 to $1,000, now trust me, it's a win-win situation for me, right? Because if it's a 500 to $1,000 as a referral fee, that's good. It's good for them. It's also good for me, right? But I now also want to talk to them about the business just in case they may want to refer this to other people as well. Right. Now that three of their people are on the not on the hook, but they may be actually moving forward as well. Does this make sense? Right. So, that's also a potential outcome. Now, let me kind of reverse it a little bit and slow it down. When you sit with a person, if if you explain how solar works and they see and understand how solar works, how water works, right? How home security works, and they show interest in one of our services and some of the other ones as well, right? And for whatever reason, they don't take advantage of it or they do. Fantastic. If they refer business to you, you now have that business to leverage and say, hey, we can pay you X or we can pay you Z, right? Are you open to Z? That's it. If they're open to Z, here's where we go and we schedule them for one of the presentations that we have. We get them on a three-way after the presentation, so on and so forth. The business continues from there. However, this is how you use and leverage that clientele and that consultation, I should say, to generate these three different outcomes. Now, most people don't look at it like this. Remember, we're in a people business. We're not in the solar business, not in the water business, we're in the people business, right? So I hear Mr. Bean say it all the time, like collaborate with people who have what you're looking for. Guess what we're looking for? We're looking for people, right? People can do all aspects of the business, right? When I see people, when I see clients, I don't just see them as a solo client. I see them as a potential for everything that we offer. It's just the packaging and the verbiage that we use to move them in different directions based on what their interest is, based on how many referrals they give, based on whether they move forward, based on whether they don't, so on and so forth, right? So once again, those are the three outcomes. We're talking about results. Obviously, we're looking to close deals because that's how the business moves forward, right? This is how we get paid. Everyone wins. That's results. We're looking for referrals, right? If someone does move forward or if they don't, we're still looking to expand our clientele base through referrals. Extremely important always. And then if we get referrals, and then we can also potentially leverage that for recruits, right? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, you referred a few people over. That was amazing. Would you be possibly open to taking a look at some information to see how you possibly can maybe split the deal with us? You already referred them, right? These people are already interested, right? I'm just letting you know so you can possibly benefit as well. You don't have to, but I'm just letting you know. Right. And now, if and obviously the wording is not perfect. You can word it however it works for you. But if you approach someone like that, does that sound like you're desperate to have someone come into your business? No. Does that sound like you're needy of someone being in your business? No. Right. It's kind of indifferent. And like that's why I said I win either way, through the referral route or through them being a partner. It's a win-win situation, right? So with that, I don't want to go much longer. Hopefully you guys got a little bit of value from that. Like I said, if you heard some of the trainings before, you've heard some of these things, but I just wanted to package it and, all together in one training. So when you look at clients moving forward, you know and understand that they can serve you in so many different ways, and not just for the specific way that you may have in mind. So just want to keep that open. With that, I'll just open it up for any calls, thoughts, anything that anyone has to possibly, anything anyone wants to add. Yes, Dale.
Yeah, hey Idris, man. So, have you ever used the fact that we give $500 to $1,000 referral fees as as part of what you ask for referrals?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mentioned that as well. Once again, you can not package it, but you can literally say, and I want to make sure I'm answering your question you asked, but you asked me, do I ever mention or do I add in the 500 to $1,000?
Yeah, have you ever used it? Got results? Okay.
Absolutely. For people who don't want to join the business, I usually explain it like this. You can make big money or you can make small money, right? If you want to make small money and refer, I want you guys to understand there might be people in the business or people who see the business and or people who see a consultation, right? And they may have referrals for you, right? But kind of the way you go about the process will determine whether they give it to you or not. If you're trying to sell and close them, they probably won't give it to you, right? If you seem needy and thirsty for it, commission breath, they probably won't give it to you, right? But if set it up in a way where it makes sense to them, then yeah, of course they'll choose one, and that's what we want. There's options. They can choose from 500 to 1,000, or they can choose from on average 3,500. You know what I mean? So yeah, great question. Thank you. Yes, Miss Dr. George.
Thanks. Great information. Question for you. When you're looking at your numbers and you're looking at your ratios, um, how do you qualify then the different outcomes? So
Uh,
so you look at the number of calls you've made, you look at the number of um appointments you've booked, the number of appointments kept, the number of um proposals done. Do you
mhm.
then categorize it down into what the result was, or how do you track that?
That's a phenomenal question, actually. And yeah, so it's funny because as you say that, I'm thinking about something that, JC said as far as firing calls off. I don't necessarily track how many calls I make per se. I try to make as many until, right? I'm looking for a specific goal for the day. So if my goal is to hit, let's say 3 to 5 appointments a day, then I'm just calling until I hit that. Every day I don't hit it, obviously, but I'm just going to keep calling until. So that I don't track as much. You can, but it gets it could get a little tedious to track every call you make. You could just look at your call log as well. But more importantly, I do look at my calendar on a week-to-week basis, and I see exactly how many appointments I booked, right? So that's or how many appointments was booked for the week. Very important, right? And then another very important number to track is how many appointments got sat with, right? So when I used to run let me stay on track. How many appointments got sat with? And then out of the appointments that got sat, how many appointments actually closed, right? So for me, I know my numbers are roughly about 1 out of 5. That means every 5 appointments I sit with, there's going to be a deal closed. I don't know from who it's going to come from, or if it's a personal deal, a mentor deal, or, team deal, whatever. I don't know, but I know out of every 5 appointments I sit, one of them close, right? So now I know my numbers, because if I want to close, let's say, I don't know, 5 deals in a week, right? Then I know I need to sit with at least 25 people within that week, which may mean I may need to book about 50 appointments. Now my mind goes from, what am I going to do or whatever, to how am I going to get 50 appointments on the calendar? Right. And then your thoughts, you hear Mr. Bean talking about the creativity. Your thoughts start to shift, and you start to try to figure out things and ways and creative ways to actually make that happen. So those are main numbers that I track. Once again, how many appointments I have for the week, how many I sit with, and then how many I actually close. What that will also do is give you a ratio for
Mm-hmm.
you to now kind of like know how to go after your goals, right? Whether that's recruits, whether that's deals, solar deals, water deals, whatever it may be. Now you have a ratio to kind of like act on.
Okay. Follow-up question on that. So did you see your ratio change over time? So did you see your ratio go from maybe 1 in 10 okay, I'm going to give you some numbers. So there were 30 leads
Mm-hmm.
put into the system
Yep.
with appointments booked.
Mm-hmm.
21 were kept with 3 sales.
Okay.
So
I'm
that's
sorry.
like a 1 in 7 ratio.
Correct. You said 21 of them were kept.
21 were kept.
Okay, so sat. I say
Yeah, it's
sat
sat.
that way.
Sat.
Okay, so 1 out of 3. There you go. Then that's your ratio.
One out of 7 actually.
One out of 7.
Because 21 kept and 3 or sat and 3 closed.
So that's your ratio. So what's funny about that is you know the exact activity you need to do to now turn that into 6, right? You know the numbers, right?
Okay. So then I
Mhm.
got it. All right, got it.
Right. If you wanted to get to 6, all you will need to do is double that, right? It's like crystal clear. One of the biggest issues I should say with people in sales is that they just don't know their numbers. Right. I listen to Grant Cardone all of the time, and that's literally all he talks about is knowing your numbers, knowing millionaire math, knowing the numbers you need to get to the goals you actually have set for yourself.
Okay.
Right. So if we all know our numbers, then once again, you'll know how to get to the goals that you're looking for the month, for the year, whatever it may be. Hopefully that answered the
That,
question.
yeah, that helped. That did help a lot. And if no one else has their hands up, I'm going to hog your time. Okay.
Yeah.
Because then the next question is,
Yep.
so now that I know the ratio is 1 to 7 based on the numbers that we've run,
Hmm.
there are 19 that qualified for sale, and there are like 5 different sales in progress right now in some form. What would you do with the other, or would you do anything with the other 15?
Okay. I want to say those numbers again. I want to make sure I understand what
So of the 21 that kept,
it's on.
right?
Mm-hmm.
3 closed,
Pretty close. Okay.
right? So that means there was still about 18, 19. Oh, a little bit less than
18.
17.
Yep.
Yeah.
About 18 left. Yep.
So 18 left. 2 of
Hmm.
them failed credit, right?
2 out of the 3.
No, 2 out
Oh,
of
2 of
the
the 18.
18.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that still leaves 16, right?
Mm-hmm.
That qualified for solar,
Okay.
or they're in some stage, some process of getting solar. So not all of them went all the way through to a credit check.
Got it.
Right. So of that 16, there are 6 of them in some follow-up process.
Yep.
What would you do with the other 10 then? Or would you do anything with them at all?
Yeah. Yeah. Once again, you said this 16 still in the follow-up, right?
There's 6 still in the follow-up. So they're either
Still. Okay.
they're getting close to a final decision as to, And so we have additional appointments booked with those 6 to
Got it.
close the process because they continue to need that education you talked about. They continue to need that consultation that you talked about. What do you do, if anything, with the other 10?
I got it. I got it. Okay. So my question is, have the other 10 said, no, don't call me back?
No.
Continue to follow up with them
Okay.
until they either say, don't call me back, please don't call me back at all,
Mm-hmm.
or just continue to follow up. Because, like solar, I'm talking about solar now, but this applies to anything, right? Water, security, so on and so forth. Eventually they may get a high bill. When they get a high bill, they're going to think about the person who followed up, but followed up professionally, right? Not followed up and begged and bugged and, did all of this stuff. The person who followed up consistently, professionally, you will be at the top of that person's mind before any and everybody else. Because most salespeople don't follow up, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just here today, going tomorrow, transactional. So yeah, I would just definitely follow up with the other 10 for sure.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have their hand up? Because if not, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, Miss Miss Johnson has her hand up as well. But
Okay.
yeah, definitely open to taking more as well. Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Miss Johnson.
Hey, yeah, well, thank you, first of all, Idris, for this awesome training. The 3 R's of outcomes of a consultation. But I want to say a couple of things.
Yep.
Number one, the 3 R's, they flow into each other so nicely because I've had 2 situations where I had a consultation. A person was an affiliate, and I told them that they would get paid on their own consultation because they were curious about solar. That person um, had a consultation, made a decision to get solar. Then, when they saw the process, they liked the process. That person then became a builder, and so now they're a recruit. They have become a recruit, and now that same individual is now making referrals to themselves to have business. So
Right.
it was a very, very smooth process of just inviting a person to a consultation and then allowing that experience to speak to them. The other person was someone that I met at an event, and that person became an affiliate, and that person referred someone, and that person, um, the person they referred, got solar, and they got
Mm,
paid as an affiliate, and then they became a builder,
mm.
and now are have invited other people to be builders with them. So it's really the 3 R's: results, referrals, and recruits. They all really flow smoothly into each other as long as you continue with the process. And then the other thing I wanted to say was stimulated by Dr. George's questions about the ratios. She asked, do the ratios get better? And
Oh,
today, Jessica dropped into the main WhatsApp chat the audio, Building Your Network Marketing Business by Jim Rohn. And he specifically speaks to just that, about, as you continue to do the work, your ratios will improve because you get better. And so your results then get better. And so your ratios will improve. So those 1 in 7 right now, 6 months from now, Dr. George, will be 1 in 5, and maybe in 12 months will be 1 in 3. So yeah, thank you for this awesome training, Idris.
no, absolutely. And I realized I was doing so much talking. Miss Judge, I didn't even answer your question. Yes, absolutely. The ratios do get better over time. And if anyone's heard that audio, the Building Your Network Marketing Business by Jim Rome, yeah, he talks about 1 out of 10 is usually what most people, that's kind of like average, or for lack of better words, and 2 out of 10 is kind of like above, and 3 out of 10 you're like a superstar, right? So I heard this on another call recently as well, right? Once again, just think about it. The superstars of the world, the superstars that we see, the Mr. Beans, the, JCs and all of the, all of the superstars in this company, they're still bad. Let's say if they're superstars, they're batting at 3 out of 10, right? So they deal with a lot of the same rejection as well as everyone else. They just do it. They're just more at bat, right? And we just have to get good at just being at bat, taking those swings and getting better along the process. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that, Ms. Johnson as well. Dr. George, did you have any other questions as well?
Of course, since we have you captive, of
Absolutely.
course.
Absolutely.
So my next question is,
Yeah.
how do you approach cold leads, or should we be approaching cold leads booked into a mentor's calendar differently from warm leads? When I say warm leads, meaning the warm market, should that be approached differently when we're booking into mentors' calendars? I know, because I guess I'm looking for the impact on results from that. Are there steps we can take before we actually get onto a mentor's calendar that could massage that warm Facebook, that cold Facebook lead more than setting the appointment?
Once again,
Am I making sense?
absolutely. That's a great question, and that's a great question for me to answer publicly because I think a lot of people don't realize this. Cold market leads, as we're talking about results, cold market leads are just naturally going to be a lower result. Here's what takes place when we're dealing with cold market leads. Usually cold market people, online leads, wherever you get them from, they are searching for solar, but they're also searching for the best price, which means they're shopping around, right? So you become another, you know, presentation to their shopping, right? So they're usually just looking for the lowest price, and obviously we don't want to, just undercut every deal. It's like we can win the deal, but there won't be any commission made on that deal, right? So that's just a thought. That's just an understanding from cold market leads. Or what I would say as far as, transitioning that cold market lead to a mentor, just let the mentor know this is a cold market lead because their approach will change with the consultation, right? I'm a little bit more aggressive when dealing with cold market leads, just due to the fact that I need to be, right? Cold market leads come into the consultation, they think they know everything and all of this stuff. So there's just a different mindset that the mentor may need to go into the deal with. Warm market, obviously, you know how that is. It's a little easier, it's a little warmer, so it can be a much different approach. But yeah, I would just say just let the knowing that the cold market leads is going to be a lower closing ratio, ideally, and just letting the mentor know upfront would be best. Because yeah, there was a deal that it was not a deal, it was an appointment that I had today, and I didn't know or realize that it was a cold market lead I was dealing with. So I got
Mm.
onto the appointment completely off guard, and they were the aggressor in the situation. And yeah, if you guys know me, I'm usually kind of mellow, but I had to turn it up a little bit because I had to match his energy. And I kind of needed to let him know, like, if we're gonna do this, then I need you to let me do it, or else we don't need to be doing it at all. And the energy switch very quickly. So yeah, just letting the mentor know is great, so they can be on the same page with you as they close the deal.
Okay. And then I'm gonna keep them coming until you tell me
Absolutely.
to stop
Please go.
asking these questions.
Please go.
So then, en route to being a mentor,
Mhm.
other than the 3 sales and the 5, closing the 5 sales yourself, what would your advice be to someone on that journey, especially when it comes to Now, I guess a different perspective is looking at the result, not only as a close, but also as an education and also as a referral. What would your advice be to someone as they're walking that journey?
Yeah, this is a great question, right? As you ask that question, you start reminding me some of the things I did when I first started. And it's funny, it's some of the same things, but I would present to people back then, people I knew wasn't going to close as well. And that was a form of me practicing with someone who I didn't know instead of practicing with like my family or in the mirror and things of that nature, because I could work on my craft with their reasons of not moving forward, whether that be and it was kind of like a test, right? So I would recommend presenting more and getting in the hang of it more, right? Now, the reality is there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes from a mentor that no one sees, right?
Yeah.
No one sees, no one understands, no one really gets, and you won't really get it and understand it until you immerse yourself in a situation. I was explaining this situation earlier. My first job in the solar industry was with Tesla. It was a job, and it was a job. So your expected results immediately. I didn't close my first deal until like the month five, right? I was on the brink of getting fired before I closed my first deal. And that first deal was horrible. It was all messed up, jacked up. I don't know what I sold them. They don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows, right? But obviously, it would put me in a position where I had to learn and I had to grow from that. And I just kept pushing myself to do it more and more and more. And then eventually it clicks, right? And this is for people who don't have experience in the solar industry. And with all of the training that we have, there's a lot of good training, but it won't click until you start doing it yourself, right? It's kind of hard to teach someone how to be a solar consultant because there's no cookie cutter process. Every house is different. There's going to be a different outcome for every house. There's going to be a different perspective of how we close each and every deal, right? So it's just going through that enough so you now start to get a framework of, okay, I'm getting a hang of this, right? And also I would recommend as you're learning to definitely start off in maybe like one market, because
Okay.
as you start jumping markets, things start changing, right?
Hmm. I know
Incentives,
those adders and the that
adders,
resource center there in the Freedom Forever portal. There's a lot that you have to go through there.
adders change almost every day. Right? It's an adjustment, right? So, that's also something to kind of be aware of. And what else changes every day? Baselines change,
Baselines.
right? They change. And now this is a great thing, right? Our baselines, they keep changing, but they keep getting lower. So that's great for us, right? But it's something to constantly be on top of every single day. You got to be on a lookout for what my phone rings all day, so I try to pay attention to the things that I actually need to see because otherwise I would be all over the place. Right? So, but things change frequently and you got to be on top of that to the best of your ability as well. But once you immerse yourself in the process, it'll start to click. I can't tell you when, but it'll click eventually for sure.
Okay. And then my last question is, how do you how so what kind of conversation would you have with the mentees who are booking with you insofar as their expectation of you as a mentor? Because as a mentee, our expectation is that you're going to close the deal for us.
Hmm.
But as a mentor, there's got to be expectations that you have of the mentee, and
Hmm.
also setting that mentee up for appropriate expectations themselves.
Yep. That's great. So yeah, one of the things that once again I do, I don't know what everyone else does, but one thing I do when someone books an appointment on my calendar and it's usually their first time booking it, I may just have a conversation with them beforehand, right? Now it may be someone I already know, they're within the team, but it could be someone else that I don't know outside the team. And now it's just having a conversation and kind of like establishing some basics, right? Like, hey, when we get on the Zoom, just do a soft introduction because that's important, right? Without the introduction, your client may not value what's being said from the mentor. If they don't value it, then obviously we know how that works or how that turns out. In addition to that, things like, when you book the appointment, add the bill, right? Seems simplistic, but there was a appointment that I had today where, new guy on my team, he basically sent the bill right before the appointment. So I couldn't do the proposal, right? Now he didn't know that. But once again, this is now a conversation we now have to have privately, and I have to tell him and educate him, right? Now he's ripping and running and he's doing his thing. He's thinking just because he's moving fast, he's doing, things right. Sometimes you got to slow down and speed up. Right. So yeah, I would, and also just setting the expectation that every deal is not going to close, as I mentioned earlier, for a variety of different reasons. Our job is to educate, and once again, letting them know. And it's funny, I had to do this with a few other people recently. Like my job is to have the consultation. First goal was to close the deal. That might not happen. Second goal is to get referrals. That hopefully will happen. And, least likely, however, we may also be able to get a recruit out of this. So this is what I'm going into the table with. I just want you to know. So don't expect the deal to close. If it does, it does. But I want you to have your expectations, managed before we get off the call and you start yelling at me because the deal didn't close, right? So yeah. That's it's a simple conversation. You know, um, and yeah, once again, and I'll say this again because I'm starting, like I said, these chirps. I'm starting to add a lot of chirps, but it's just communication, right? If you communicate, if the mentee mentor relationship is open and there's open communication, then everything should be fine. There's going to be mistakes, right? No one's perfect. Also, the mentor is not always going to be perfect, right? Things are going to happen. I was just thinking this earlier. Sometimes there's meetings that you have that aren't so positive, right? For lack of better words, there's things that happen, situations that take place, and it changes your mindset a bit, right? So people aren't going to be perfect, So having grace and understanding of, things changing, is very important with everything that we do as well. Right.
Okay.
Once again, hopefully that answers the question.
It did, and it leads to another question, and I'm gonna make this the last one. If you
Yeah.
were going to build out a system
Mhm.
for mentees and the expectations, as well as what to expect as a mentee, what to expect as a mentor, what would you build out? One. And two, do you think even building something like that out would be helpful?
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, just a few things that come to mind as I mentioned. Having a for every new mentee that you work with, it obviously is a relationship, and the goal is for it to be an ongoing relationship, right? So not just I'm not a fan of just picking 5 different mentees and figuring, I don't think that's best. But obviously establishing that relationship. Um, you know, Obviously there should be, so open communication first and foremost. When it comes to the consultation, making sure you set the right expectations with the client, right? That's first. Um, and then, obviously the edification of the mentor, when they start. Also, I didn't mention this earlier, but not talking during the consultation. I'm trying to find a better way of putting that. That sounds a little more professional, but once again, sometimes when mentees speak, obviously we know you have good intentions, but there might be something you say that turns the deal around and you don't even know that, right? So it can ruin the deal and you won't even know. It's happened so often, so many times, right? Happened today with someone who it just happened today. And then exactly. I don't know what you said, but
I
exactly.
said, I said two ears and one mouth for a reason. Use your mouth to edify me, and then your two ears to listen to the process from there on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because it's once again, it's vitally important, right? It could be the smallest thing that you say that can turn the deal off, right? And as the mentor knows, right? But the mentee doesn't know. They're just trying to be helpful. So obviously, yeah, being quiet during the consultation, and then having it's vitally important, I believe, having that post consultation conversation, right? Because, once again, it's just transactional if we have the consultation and then I'm off on my way and you're off on your way. So now we don't really get a chance to talk about what actually took place. What did you learn? What questions did you have? What did you see? What didn't you see? Right? You may ask, why did I lean to this direction? Why did I do this? Why did I do that? And so now the real understanding of the process of solar starts to sink in, right? Instead of, oh, I had a consultation, up, let me go do whatever else. Because that way, you'll forget, you won't really learn, and it's not as beneficial, right? So that post consultation conversation is vitally important. And so yeah, would it make sense to put a mentee game plan or structure process in place? Of course. Of course. And yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that if you're asking me. I think we know who's going to be the next mentor on the team. Nice. I'm ready for it. I love it. I love it. But yeah, I would definitely love to do that for sure. Absolutely. Yeah,
Thank you so
obviously
much.
with
I appreciate
absolutely,
it.
absolutely. I know we're a little bit over 8, but I don't know if anyone else have any other questions, thoughts, or concerns that we could address before jumping off. Yes, Miss Wynn.
So, what is the, how do we address, no, that's not the question I want to ask. So how do we exercise patience throughout the process?
Hmm.
That's my
Uh,
question.
Now, just to make sure I understand, when you say patience through the process, what process are you talking about specifically? Are you talking about the overall process or?
Yes, and in terms of, what our expectations should be, when things may go awry, that whole, or not, or,
Mhm.
just making sure that we are in a place wherein everything is, where we exercise detachment is the question I'm asking, really. Patience and detachment. Thank you very much for allowing me to ask.
Absolutely. That's a great question as well. Patience in the process is extremely important, right? And we all have to experience it, everybody, right? So it's just having that positive attitude through the process, right? Every day I wake up, I look at certain things and I'm accounting for certain things to go through and to move through the way I expect. And then that doesn't always happen. Right? Things happen. The weather, there's a few, jobs that I'm waiting for them to have roofs, right? The roofs can only be done on the weekends. Well, for the past 4 weekends, it's been raining in this specific location, right? Now, every week that it rains, the roof can't get installed. When the roof can't get installed, solar can't get installed. And I have to practice the patience and understand that once again, solar is a part construction. So in these situations, I start to ask myself, well, what can I do to add more fuel to the fire? Right? I could sit and wait for this one job or whatever to go through and be frustrated, or I can do more activities, the right activities, and put my mindset on what I can do, also what I can control, right? Everything in this business you're not going to be able to control, just like you're not going to be able to control everything in life. However, you want to do the things and focus on the things that you can and keep as much of a positive attitude in that process as possible. And trust me, I understand that it's not always easy, but we all got to do the best that we can, right? So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you so much. It does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, mother.
Good evening, and thank you for taking my question. So I know that as a mentee, I remember hearing that we're supposed to have discussed with the client the age of the roof and if they had any damage. Um, how far ahead do we put in the bill? How far
Hmm.
ahead of the appointment do you need the bill?
Great question. So I would recommend putting in the bill as you put it into the bill back office, right?
Okay.
It as you put the lead in. So maybe I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but I experienced this today as well. If you put the lead in and you don't put the bill in, once you put the lead in, the lead is locked. So you're not able to change it, edit it, or do anything to it, right? So now you would have to send that bill to the mentor directly. Not necessarily a problem, but it could get lost in the sauce. So I would recommend putting the bill in when you put the lead in. Now, that's the first part of the question you asked. When you say how soon before, every proposal it's not a 2, 5 minute, 10-minute situation. Some proposals take hours to create, right? And this is some of the behind the scenes work that we don't really talk about. So it could take hours. And also as a mentor, you really need to focus on that time you're putting it together because one thing could change the whole deal. And this happened to me multiple times. So personally, I try to put my consultation, my proposals in place early in the morning, roughly around like about 6 to 8, 6 to 9 o'clock, where my phone won't ring. It's not going to be ringing, chirping, beeping, and burping, and all of this stuff, and I can just focus on like what I'm trying to do, so I can be prepared for the consultation that day. Here's another thing, right? And this may be more for mentors, but and once again, everyone has different processes, but I put my proposals in place the morning of. The reason why is because let's say there's 5 appointments in a day. I need to remember all 5 situations and the reasons and the perspectives of how I'm going to close this client, right? So if I put a proposal tomorrow, if I put a proposal together today for Friday, by the time Friday comes, I won't remember it. There's too many other deals going on throughout the week, right? So I do it the day of, the morning of specifically, so I can be fresh. I can have that client fresh in mind on how to propose to them, right? Every client is going to be in a different, you know, perspective of why they should go solar. So I need to keep that fresh in mind. Once again, hopefully that answers the question as well.
It does. It does. Just put it in when you put it in. When you get the appointment, put the information in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah.
You are, is this only for solar or can I ask a rain H2O question?
Yeah. You can ask Rain H2O. I'll answer it if I can for sure.
Okay, so for the rain appointments, when we schedule that appointment, we're sup I think we're supposed to upload a picture of the top of their sink and the bottom. Is that
Right.
correct?
I think so. Don't get
With the
me
stuff
to lie.
that's
I
not
have no
in
idea.
the way of the pipes, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so. That'd be a great question for, Mrs. Bean for sure.
Okay. I remember hearing that. But anyway, and one more thing, aside from the age of the roof, what other good questions should we have already answered for you all before we sign on for a mentor? Can you refresh my memory?
Yeah, so there's two main questions that I would recommend asking. Now here's why, right? Even the age of the roof, it's not a bad question. It is a good question to ask, but that question could kind of lead to other questions that they may ask you that you might not know. And sometimes that could deter creating or setting the actual appointment. right? So, you know, I would be a little light, right? About some questions. But the questions I would ask is definitely, how long have you been looking into solar, right? That gives you a clear indication of kind of like the degree of seriousness that they may have with moving forward potentially. So how long have you been looking into solar and why haven't you moved forward yet? Right. So these two questions, if they say I haven't moved forward because uh, I couldn't trust the last person I met with. Okay, that's a key point that you know we'll need to focus on. And I didn't move forward because the price was too high before. That's a key point that we need to focus on. I didn't move forward because there's trees there and I didn't get them cut down. I didn't move forward because of the roof. All of this information gives you first and foremost, but you can pass that on to the consultant, and that'll give them more leverage in the deal, as far as their angle of how they're going to explain solar to the client, right? There's always an angle, and those angles can be directly approached by why they haven't moved forwards thus far. Absolutely, absolutely. All
Thank you.
right, all right, all right. So great session from everyone. I just wanted to know if there's any other questions, thoughts that anyone may have. I'm okay that we're answering. All right. Anyone else? All right, all right, all right. Once again, definitely appreciate everyone jumping on. Hopefully this added value to everyone on the line. And yeah, let's continue to go. Let's know our numbers. Let's put these numbers into action. And let's continue to, you know, add more value overall as a team. And let's become the number one team out here. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys. I hope you guys all have a great night. Obviously, we have the Millionaire Mentorship call coming up shortly. So I'll catch you guys all on and hope everyone has a great night as well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.